Out of the earth rises light, rises life, rises spring. May we join with the miracle that is springtime and enter into life with lightness and joy. Out of the Spirit rises faith, rises hope, rises love. May we join with the miracle that is Easter time and enter into life with hope and love. Let us resurrect with spring. Let us resurrect with the Spirit and enter into renewed life as we gather into our time of worship together this Easter morning. Welcome, one and all. And we will sing. This is Lo the Earth Awakes Again, and it's number 61 in our hymnals. And I invite you to rise as you are willing and able.
Happy Easter! Happy Easter! And welcome everyone to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. I'm Reverend Annie Gonzalez, your acting senior minister, and it's so wonderful to be gathered with so many friendly faces here in person, with everyone joining us on Zoom. Let's wave to our Zoom friends. Hi, Zoom friends. It is wonderful to be together this morning. One thing I want to point out is that we have on our chancel our silver that was used for communion by our spiritual ancestors, by those who created this congregation so many years ago. And that silver is so special that it's kept in a museum most of the time. But we got it out. Reverend Megan did all the work to get it out of the museum so we could look at it today. And we don't do communion the same way our Christian ancestors did, those who founded this congregation, but we still appreciate our history, and we appreciate that we are here because of them, and we also appreciate how gorgeous this old silver is. So take a peek if you'd like to, before it goes back to its home in the museum. And another special thing that we do on Easter, besides get out really old silver, is have an Easter egg hunt. Who's excited about the Easter egg hunt? Yeah, people are pumped. So if you are a toddler through a 5th grader, you are invited to participate as a seeker of eggs. You should go out to the steps after the service and wait for instructions. Don't get too excited. I know there's giant eggs on the common this morning. I don't know where they came from. Those aren't our eggs. They're all around town, I hear, from a voice from the balcony. Fantastic. So don't worry about those eggs, but do look for the small eggs, but wait for the instructions. Fantastic. All right. The other thing is, in this congregation, we generally have time to share the joys and concerns of our hearts. And we haven't had that opportunity lately in service. We've had so many special services. And once again, that is true today. But if you have a joy or sorrow on your heart that you would like to light a candle for after service, our lay pastoral care associates will be at the candle stand over there. And you are welcome to light a candle, check in with them if you like, or just light one in silence. You are welcome to do that. The last piece of exciting news, I'm sure many of you are well aware, that we have a candidate for the senior minister position here at First Parish. Woo! And so for any who are visiting today, we have been looking for a new senior minister. I've been just acting like one. I've been the acting senior minister, but we're looking for a new one so I can go back to being your minister of faith development. And we think we found one, so we just gotta get to know him and vote him in. But we're very grateful for our search team, and we're so excited. Yes. That's right. They've done a tremendous amount of work. They've done a fantastic job, and they have planned for us a candidating week where we can meet Reverend Jamie Hinson-Rieger and get to know him, and then on May 7th, after the church service, we will get to vote on whether we'd like him to be our senior minister, and I feel excited, and I'm very hopeful that we will feel very excited to say yes to that. So keep an eye out for all the fun, exciting ways you can meet the ministerial candidate during candidating week from April 30th to May 7th. And with that, I will invite us to rise in body or in spirit and read our unison affirmation. It is printed in your order of worship. We say it in English and in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor de amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Good morning and happy Easter. It is so wonderful to be here with you all. Did everybody have the Easter bunny show up at their house this morning? Yeah? Yeah? We also apparently have an Easter bunny for the town of Bedford, which is pretty fantastic. Those giant yellow eggs are so festive. So the story I have for you all today has been a favorite of mine since I was a child. And I've actually discovered that not a lot of people are familiar with this particular Easter bunny story. So I'm even more excited to share it with you today. It is the country bunny and the little gold shoes. And Mark and Nora Bailey will be helping me to share this story with you. And so we hear of the Easter bunny, who comes each Easter day before sunrise to bring eggs for kids. So we think there's only one, but there are really 5 Easter bunnies, and they must be the 5 kindest and swiftest and wisest bunnies in the whole wide world, Because between sunset on Easter Eve and dawn on Easter morning, they do more work than most rabbits do in a whole year. And I don't know about you, but the rabbits in my yard, they work pretty hard eating all my vegetables. But these Easter bunnies, they work even harder than those rabbits. When one of the Easter bunnies grows older and can no longer run fast, the old, wise, and kind grandfather bunny who lives at the Palace of Easter Eggs calls all the bunnies together from the whole world to select the very best one to take the place. Often a mother bunny says to her child, "Now, if you learn to be wise and kind and swift, someday you too may grow up to be one of the 5 Easter bunnies." And all of the babies try their very best so they can grow up and work for Grandfather Bunny at the Palace of the Easter Eggs. One day, a little country girl bunny with brown skin and a little cotton ball of a tail said,
"Someday I shall grow up to be an Easter bunny. You wait and see."
Then all of the big white bunnies who lived in the fine, fancy houses and all of the jackrabbits with the really long legs who can run so fast, they laughed at the little cottontail. "Go back to your country and eat a carrot." But she said,
"Wait and see."
The little girl Cottontail grew up to be a young lady Cottontail, and by she had a husband, and then one day, much to her surprise, there were 21 Cottontail bunnies to take care of. 21. Then all the big white rabbits and the jacks with the long legs laughed and laughed, and they said, "What did we tell you? Only a country rabbit would go and have all those babies. Now take care of them." Sometimes I don't know where the jokes are going to land for that one. You guys like that one. Now you go and take care of them and leave Easter eggs to great big bunnies like us. And they went away, liking themselves very much. Cottontail stopped thinking about hopping over the world with lovely eggs for little boys and girls and other kids, and she took care of her babies. And one day when her children stopped being babies and were now little kid bunnies, she called them to her and she said, "We're going to have some fun now." So for 2 of them, she gave them little brooms and showed them how to sweep out the cottage. And for another 2, she taught them how to make beds. And 2 more went with her to the kitchen and in no time found out how to cook a good dinner. And with those 2 went 2 little dishwashers and the glasses shined like crystal. 2 had little wash tubs full of soap suds and washed all the linens. And 2 did the sewing and the mending. 2 had sweet voices and were taught to sing, and 2 more to dance, and these amused all the others while they worked, so that they were glad and happy. And 2 others were soon digging in the garden. 2 she gave paints and crayons so they would make pretty pictures for the walls. And when Mother Cottontail had given out all of the tasks, she looked around, and there was one little Cottontail boy, Bunny, left, and he was sad and lonely. Then Mother Cottontail said to him, "You are the most polite of all my children, so I shall make you keeper of my chair. And whenever I come to dinner, you shall seat me politely at the table." Then one day, when the little rabbits were half grown up, she heard a great talk among the woods rabbits and asked what it was about. They said, "Haven't you heard? One of the 5 Easter bunnies has grown too slow, and we are all going to the Palace of the Easter Eggs to see old grandfather pick out a new one to take his place." So she called her little Cottontails, and they all set off to the palace to see the fun. But they were sad because they thought that she was just an old mother bunny and could only look on, and it would be a big fancy rabbit or long-legged jack that would be chosen. When they came to the Palace of the Easter Eggs, there were bunnies everywhere on the great lawn, and the ones that hoped to be the Easter bunny stood together, and the others looked at them and clapped their paws. Then the big front door opened, and the wise, old, and kind grandfather came slowly hopping out. Just to be clear, this is actually this bunny's regular pace, because the grandfather bunny hops slowly. And he told the biggest and those with the longest legs to show what they could do. They jumped and ran and showed him their pretty white fur, and they were all very fast and very clever. But still he did not pick one, and he said to them,
"You are pretty and you are fast, but you have not shown me that you are either kind or wise."
Then his old kind eyes looked everywhere, and at last they rested on little Cottontail Mother, where she stood with all her children, and he called her to come right up to the palace steps. So she took her 21 children, went up, and stood before him. And when he spoke, his voice was so kind that she was not frightened at all. And he said,
What a large family you have, my dear. I suppose they take all of your time?
When they were babies, that was so, but now they were so well trained that they do most of the work for me.
Ah, you must be very wise to train so many children so well. But tell me, do they always look so happy? And do they always hold their ears up so prettily?
Indeed they do. We have never had a tear or cross word in our little country cottage. If I do say so myself, they do carry their ears better than most bunnies.
Then you must be very kind indeed to have such a happy home. It is too bad that you have had no time to run and grow swift, as I might then have made you my 5th Easter bunny.
And at that, the mother cottontail started to laugh. Then she whispered to the little bunnies, and every rabbit on the lawn looked to see what would happen. And the old grandfather leaned forward to watch. And suddenly, all the 21 children raced away. Mother Cottontail dashed after them and quickly gathered up her 21 children, and in no time at all had them all back again in front of the palace. And then she explained to Grandfather Bunny how well her children cared for their home together, with the washers and the menders and the painters and her special bunny who pulled out her chair.
You have proved yourself to be not only wise and kind and swift, but also very clever. Come to the palace tomorrow afternoon, for that is Easter Eve, and you shall be my 5th Easter bunny.
Part 2 to come.
In this community, we do endeavor to be kind and wise, and we do all pitch in to keep this place running just like those little bunnies. We invite you to give generously to this morning's offering to sustain and strengthen the work of this congregation.
So as invited, the next evening, Cottontail knocked on the big front door and was admitted to the palace of Easter eggs. And there she stood in her simple country clothes, but none of the other 4 Easter bunnies laughed, for they were wise and kind and knew better. They showed her all over the palace, from room to room, piled high with eggs of gold and silver and eggs that glittered like snow, chocolate eggs, marshmallow eggs, eggs for rich children and eggs for poor children, eggs for children who were sick and children who were well, all the world over. Then, as soon as it was dark enough for the children to be asleep all over the world, the old, wise, kind grandfather gave the word, and the 5 bunnies set to work as fast as they could. First one, then another would take a large egg or a pretty little basket, and in a single hop would be out of the palace and away out of sight. Then in a moment he was back again before you could say Jack Robinson, and would be whisked away again. Slowly the night wore away, and the bunnies began to look tired as they kept returning to and fro for more and more eggs. And in the palace the glittering piles grew smaller and smaller. Poor little Cottontail was very tired. This was the first time she had ever gone so far or so fast in her life, and beginning to hope that she could soon take her little basket that was set aside for her own children and go hopping home, when old, wise, kind grandfather called her to him. When she went close, she saw that he was holding in his hand the loveliest egg she had ever seen. The egg, it glittered like a diamond, and when you peeked through a hole in the egg, there was a beautiful scene with a sleigh and a lake and people skating on ice.
Because you have such a loving heart for children, I am going to give you the best, but the hardest trip of all. Far off, over 2 rivers and 3 mountains, there is a great mountain peak. And in a little cottage on that peak is a little boy who has been ill for a whole year. The mountain is so high that there is ice on the top, and it will be hard to climb. But if you get there, you will give more happiness than any other Easter bunny.
Cottontail picked up the egg very gently and went hopping away on her journey. She crossed the first river and then the second. She went over the first mountain and then another mountain and yet another, until at last she reached the highest mountain of all. She was very tired when at last she got to the bottom of the great peak, and her heart failed her when she saw how high it was and how slippery with ice and snow on top. But holding the egg very carefully, she started hopping up. At last she reached the ice and snow, and now she was almost to the top and could see the little cottage all covered with snow, where the little boy was sleeping. And then a terrible thing happened. Her foot slipped and she came flying down into the snowdrifts. She left the ice and snow and was rolling and bouncing against stones. She felt the air getting warmer. Down she went and crashed through a thicket of budding laurel, rolled across a pasture, and finally struck against the trunk of a great apple tree that was just getting ready to bloom for Easter. And there she lay with the egg still safely clutched in her paw, but with a great pain in her leg. She tried to get up, but the pain was so bad she fell down. And then she felt something touch her shoulder. It was old, wise, kind Grandfather Bunny. He smiled at her and said,
You are not only wise and kind and swift, but you are the bravest of all the bunnies, and I shall make you my very own gold shoe Easter bunny.
And he bent down and put the golden shoes he had brought onto her feet, and suddenly all the pain in her left leg disappeared, and she stood up and picked up the precious egg. Then before she knew it was happening, she felt a sudden motion and found herself flying high in the air. Over the pasture she flew, over the laurel, over the stones, and straight up to the top of the mountain on one hop, and she was at the cottage door. She squeezed through the tiny crack that had been left open just in case the bunny did come all that way, and in the hand of the beautiful sleeping boy, she placed the precious egg. Then just as the Easter morning sun rose over the edge of the world, she jumped quickly back to the palace, where she found her little basket for her own little bunnies, and went hopping back home to give them a happy Easter. Mother Cottontail found that the garden was tended, the floors swept, and there were 2 lovely new pictures painted and hanging on the wall. The dishes were washed, the clothes mended and nicely hung, and her 21 children all fast asleep in their beds. The little house of Mother Cottontail can always be told now from the homes of all other bunnies, because in a special place on the wall, on a very special hook, hangs a pair of tiny little gold shoes. Thank you to our Easter Bunny and Grandfather Bunny. And before we join in our hymn, for any little ones that would like to take home one of the little baby bunnies, Nora will happily pass them out to you during the hymn. And I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and sing number 76 in your beautiful cloth-bound hymnal, For Flowers That Bloom. Easter is a time of hope, the rebirth of spring. It has been dark, it has been cold, it's even a little chilly today. When we are exiting our winter and the ice and the snow and the darkness, we hold on to that hope. That is Easter. So many of us know the classic Emily Dickinson poem, Hope is the Thing with Feathers, that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Hope for today is a thing with flowers that does not stop. The flowers are here. Most of the outside, where I was hiding the eggs with our junior youth group members this morning, it's still pretty brown out there, right? But there are daffodils. They are springing. The hope that we need is there. The story that we shared with you this morning, and one of the reasons it is an absolute favorite of mine, is that at multiple times in that story, Mother Cottontail finds hope in different ways for different things. She hopes with the wonder of a young child hopes that someday she might be able to be an Easter bunny. And she has that hope for nothing but how lovely would that be? Just the beauty of flowers, the beauty of being an Easter bunny. How special would that be? And then as she gets older, she creates a family. And then she asks her family to help her create the conditions for her to have hope to be the Easter bunny now. So even when she's not sure that she can do it, and Grandfather Bunny says, you are my next Easter bunny, she knows she can do it because she has been training for it without really knowing. But she created her own hope. But sometimes we can't just say, oh, that's pretty and inspiring and feel hope. And sometimes we can't say, oh, I have put in so much time and work that I have earned the right to be hopeful about this. Sometimes we find ourselves at the bottom of a mountain having cracked our head into a tree, and we slipped on the ice. Everything looks really dark, and we're out of time, and we need something special and magical and unexpected, like little gold shoes, to show up, to heal our hearts and lift us up the mountain. And in spring, that is the flowers. I hope that you all have flowers that you can look at on a daily basis, because the color, the brightness, the joy that they can bring you can remind you that there's magic hiding at all times, and that hope springs eternal, as we say. So for all of our young people who are hoping to find more chocolate and eggs outside, there's chocolate. But there's also some fun other magic stuff in there too, not just chocolate. And for our older people, our wise, slow, grandfathery type people, which I'm a lot slower than I used to be. We can look at the flowers and look at the children as they run around with joyfulness and see the hope for our lives through them and the flowers. I invite you now to sing a song that was written by our own Dorothy Anderson Perales, and Carlo Faulkner Carroll will be leading us and singing it. Those of you here a few weeks ago for that wonderful service on hope may have already learned this. It's a beautiful song, and I was so excited that Carlo said yes to leading it today for us. So you'll find the lyrics in your order of service if you want, but you can also just follow along with Carlo and feel hopeful in the moment.
Good morning. This is a song with movements. You can just follow along with the movements. You can stand if you feel comfortable doing that. You can move in any way that feels good to you. And it goes like this. Walk, 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 walk through light and dark, earth, sky, sky, earth, life cycles round. Sway, 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 sway through hopeful days, earth, sky, sky, earth, life cycles round. Walk, 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 walk through light and dark, earth, sky, sky, earth, life cycles round. Sway, 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 sway through hopeful days, earth, sky, sky, earth, life cycles round. Walk, 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 walk through light and dark, earth, sky, sky, earth, life cycles round. Sway, 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 sway through hopeful days, earth, sky, sky, earth, life cycles round, life cycles round. Life cycles round.
Thank you so much, Carlo. May the promise of hope fill you with joy this Easter and comfort this spring, so that your heart may overflow with the courage to welcome all that is ever changing and new. Blessings to you all.